He had 312 left for days before Christmas, and he spent every dollar of it on a woman he'd never even met. When his boss found out, Marcus was fired before sundown. But that decision, the one that cost him everything, was being watched by a complete stranger standing across the street. A man Marcus had never spoken to, never even noticed. And what that man did 1 year later, nobody saw coming. Marcus Webb was 38 years old. He worked the 5 a.m. shift at Summit Logistics on Kinsman Road in Cleveland, Ohio, loading and driving delivery trucks for $17.40 an hour. He lived in a 2-bedroom apartment on East 131st Street with his 9-year-old daughter, Lily, and a radiator that had been knocking since October. He never complained about the radiator. Every morning, before Lily woke up, Marcus would set her cereal bowl on the table, her apple juice half full in the glass because she always knocked it over when it was full, and her backpack by the door. Then he drove 35 minutes to the warehouse in the dark. His co-worker Jerome asked him once, "Doesn't all this wear on you, man?" Marcus looked at the loading dock, then at his phone. The lock screen was Lily on her first day of 3rd grade, grinning with a missing front tooth. "Not really," he said. The warehouse smelled of cardboard, diesel, and cold metal. Overhead lights hummed. Forklifts beeped somewhere in the back. It was December 21st, 4 days before Christmas, and Marcus was running his route through the Slavic Village neighborhood when his supervisor called. A package had been lost. An order for a Mrs. Eleanor Sims, 78 years old, 4417 East 56th Street. "Filed a claim," his supervisor said. "Not your problem." Marcus sat with the phone in his hand for a moment. He looked up her address, but then his bank balance stared back at him from the screen. 312. His last rent installment was due in 4 days. And what Marcus did next set everything in motion. He didn't drive back to the depot. He drove to the Family Dollar on Broadway Avenue, then the Dollar Tree 2 blocks over, moving fast through the aisles, not deliberating. Fleece blankets, a tin of butter cookies, a box of herbal tea, slip-on slippers in a size medium. He paid $94 at the register and loaded the bags into the passenger seat. Then he called the warehouse. His supervisor's voice came through flat. "Webb, where are you?" "Finishing the route. You're supposed to be back." "We're all ready. I'll be there by 4." He hung up. Eleanor Sims answered the door in a wool house dress and thick socks. The hallway behind her smelled of Vicks and something sweet, cinnamon maybe. A yellow cat watched from the top of the radiator. A small television played the weather forecast on mute. She looked at the bags in Marcus's hands. "What's this?" "Your delivery, ma'am." "I didn't order anything. Company sent the wrong thing. These are yours." She studied him. Her eyes were the gray blue of a winter sky about to snow. Then they dropped to the bags, then back to his face. "Young man," her voice lowered, "did you buy these yourself?" Marcus held the bags out. "Merry Christmas, Mrs. Sims." She didn't move right away. One hand came up slowly to the doorframe. Her chin dropped just slightly, and her shoulders, they did this small, almost invisible thing, like she was holding something in and couldn't quite. "Come in," she said. "I'll put the kettle on." He stayed 20 minutes. He helped her plug in the heating pad, moved the blanket to the couch where she'd been sleeping because the bedroom was too cold. She told him about her son in Phoenix, how he hadn't called in 3 months. Marcus listened. He didn't offer explanations for the son. "He'll call," was all he said. She looked at him carefully. Then she nodded once quietly, as if that was the exact thing she needed someone to say out loud. She gave him 2 ginger snap cookies and a paper towel for the road. He got back to the depot at 4:47. His supervisor was standing at the dock door, jacket still on, arms folded, a vein tightening along his jaw. 3 hours off route. I made the delivery. You spent money on a customer. Without authorization. She was 78. She had nothing for Christmas. That is not your job. I know. A silence. This is your third write-up this year, Marcus. I know. The man held his gaze for a long moment. Then he reached into the desk drawer and pulled out a form. Clean out your truck. Marcus drove home with the radio off. He sat in the parking lot for a while, engine off, watching his breath fog the windshield. When he went upstairs, Lily was at the kitchen table doing math, her tongue pressed against her cheek the way it did when she was concentrating. Hey, Dad. Hey, Bug. What for dinner? He opened the fridge, stood there with his hand on the door, looking at what was inside. Pasta, he said. Your favorite. She pumped her fist without looking up. His hand stayed on the refrigerator handle a beat longer than it needed to. Just when Marcus thought the worst of it was over, a notice from his landlord slid under the door the next morning. 14 days to pay the full December balance, or vacate the premises. And for one long moment, everything went completely still. January came cold and gray to Cleveland. Marcus picked up Schiff's bussing tables at a diner on Superior Avenue. $11 an hour cash. He applied to 6 delivery companies. 2 rejected him, for didn't answer. He was standing outside his building on a Tuesday morning, waiting on a call from a trucking company in Parma, when an old dark blue F-150 pulled to the curb. The man who got out was maybe 54. Plein gris jacket no logo. Work boots. Nothing on his wrists. A face that had spent years in cold weather. The kind of face that had been through things and learned to stay quiet about it. Excuse me. He gestured at Marcus's phone. Mine died. You mind? Go ahead, Marcus said. The man made a short call. Said almost nothing. Handed it back. Then he stayed, looking at Marcus with a kind of slow, deliberate attention that felt unusual. Not rude, just careful. You're Marcus Webb, the man said. Not a question. Marcus looked at him. Do I know you? Not yet. He extended his hand. Daniel Hargrove. The name meant nothing to Marcus. It meant something to anyone who read the business section. Daniel Hargrove had started Hargrove Supply Company out of a storage unit in Westlake in 1997. By 2024, the company moved over $400 million in goods annually across 7 states. 422 employees. He still drove the same F-150 he'd bought in 2013. What Marcus had no way of knowing was that Daniel had been parked on East 56th Street on December 21st, visiting a contact 2 doors down from Eleanor Sims. He had seen Marcus carry the bags to her door. He'd watched through his windshield for 20 minutes and couldn't explain why he didn't drive away. My son used to do things like that. Daniel kept his voice level, careful the way men are when they're talking about something that could break open if they're not. Thomas. He passed 3 years ago. He was 29. Work a warehouse job. Used to say the work was honest. Marcus waited. I asked around about you after December. Talked to Eleanor. Talked to Jerome. His eyes moved briefly to the building. Heard about your landlord's notice. Marcus's jaw tightened. He looked at the street. But what Daniel said next, nobody standing on that sidewalk was ready for it. Not even Marcus. I want to offer you a job, Daniel said. Regional Operations Manager. Hargrove Supply. $74,000 a year. Marcus turned back slowly. His eyes moved across Daniel's face, reading it, measuring it. Daniel reached into his jacket, pulled out an envelope. This covers December and January's rent. Both months. Marcus didn't reach for it. I'm not. It's not charity, Daniel said, quiet and final. It's what happens when someone who's been watching decides to do something about it. They sat across from each other in that same diner on Superior Avenue, 2 booths away from where Marcus had spent 3 weeks clearing tables. Carol, the waitress who had brought him free coffee every single shift without ever making a thing of it, set 2 mugs down and glanced at the envelope on the table. She didn't say anything. She moved back toward the counter slowly. Daniel laid 3 pages flat between them. The offer letter on Hardrow Supply letterhead. $74,000, full benefits. Company vehicle. The rent envelope. $3,200, written in ink on the front. And a 3rd page. A certificate from Ohio's 529 college savings program. $25,000. Established in the name of Lily and Webb. Marcus stared at it. His hands were flat on the table. He was very still, the way water goes still right before something drops into it. "Why?" he said. Finally, Daniel wrapped both hands around his mug. He looked out the window at the gray January sky, at the street below, at the cold, empty morning. "Because Thomas would have done exactly what you did," he said quietly. "And nobody did it for him." At the counter, Carol pressed her dish towel against her mouth. Marcus looked at Lily's name on the certificate, the number beside it. His throat worked once. He kept his eyes on that page, not moving, not blinking, like if he looked up, something might break. "She's going to ask me how this happened," he said. Daniel almost smiled. "Tell her somebody was paying attention." Marcus picked up the page with his daughter's name on it. He held it carefully, the way you hold something when you're not sure yet if it's real. By the following November, Marcus Webb was managing operations for Hardrow Supply's Cleveland and Akron corridors. He hired Jerome as a shift supervisor on the warehouse floor. He drove a company Silverado and wore a badge that said regional manager. He still arrived 30 minutes before anyone else. Lily's education account had grown to $31,200. That December, a Christmas card arrived from 4417 East 56th Street. Inside, in careful slanted script, Eleanor Sims had written only 4 words. "I told you so." Marcus taped it to the refrigerator, right next to a drawing Lily had made of the sun with a face. He would say later, not to anyone in particular, just to himself on the early drive to work before the city woke up, that he hadn't spent that $312 expecting anything back. He just looked at a woman alone in a cold apartment with a yellow cat and a son who wasn't calling and thought, somebody should do something. He was the only somebody there. That's the whole story. If it reminded you of someone who once showed up for you, share it with them today.